Welcome to the Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Kelley Carter, the senior entertainment reporter for ESPN's Undefeated. The Foundation has set up a COVID relief fund in order to support thousands of union performers who are going through tough times. Since March, thanks to your donations, the Foundation has given nearly $7 million in emergency aid to more than 7,000 performers and their families. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. Now, it's my pleasure to moderate a conversation with EP writer and actress Lena Waithe, who plays Denise, and EP and actress Naomi Ackie, who plays Alicia in Netflix's third season of the critically acclaimed comedy series, Master of None. This new season chronicles the relationship of Denise and her partner, Alicia, and tells us a modern love story that intimately illustrates the ups and downs of marriage, struggles with infertility, and personal growth, both together and apart. Fleeting romantic highs meet crushing personal losses, while existential questions of love and living are raised. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Lena, I want to start with you. Audiences haven't seen a new season of Master of None in 4 years. I was one of the ones waiting with bated breath personally. Can you talk a little bit about how this season came to be and reuniting with Aziz and Alan?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a hiatus. Sorry about that. Hope we made up for it. But I think, with myself, Aziz, Alan, the whole Master of None family, we don't want to just come out and just because we feel like we're supposed to. We want to come back when we had something to say. And I think we needed that time. Aziz needed it. I needed it. We needed to go do our own thing for a while and come back to each other. But we never really left. We were always in communication and just staying connected. And I think that's why we were able to kind of fall right back in when the time came. But, Aziz and I were just having conversations as friends, talking about relationships, talking about growing up, having kids. He was talking about that, and all that kind of stuff. And so what happened was the conversations sort of basically came into his mind one day that was like, what if we just focused on Denise and her wife and upstate New York and Dev's not really in it? He really thought that up. And then the easiest way for him to get me to start writing is to send me a draft of a script of something. And he did, and I did my thing with it. And we started going back and forth, and we wound up with this beautiful tableau, if you will, of moments in love. And we were really excited about it. And it felt like the right time. And we wrote this a couple of years back, before COVID, before all this stuff. So we didn't realize we were writing a COVID-friendly script at the time. But when it hit, Universal, Netflix, everybody was like, we want to shoot this. We're excited about it. And then it was off to the races to find our Alicia. And when Naomi came into our lives, and that was the missing piece of the puzzle, we really felt like we had something and we were ready to go.
Well, from your side of things, Naomi, how did this project come to you? And tell me a little bit about that process.
Like the normal way. It was like audition, I get an email from my agents and I'm like, oh, what is it? And you see, when the Master of None came up, I was like, oh, cool. Like the first 2 seasons are so sick, especially Thanksgiving season, which really stuck out for me. Lena, I'm a big fan. So I think I was just like, damn, that's really cool. But for me, I was kind of like, I'm not that funny. And I remember laughing a lot when I was watching those shows. So I didn't know how I would fit in. But when I saw the story, I felt like it was something I'd never done before, from the way Aziz had explained it to me, and that it was going to be a really stripped back kind of character study and a relationship study. That's not something I've done previously as well. And it just felt like coming in and then immediately this kind of collaborative energy. I was like, man, this is going to be a really sick experience. And it was challenging in a way, it was intellectually challenging at times. And I think it's all the better for it. I felt really pushed in it.
Yeah. Lena, you said that you didn't realize at the time you guys were writing a very COVID-friendly story. At what point did you guys start going into production on this and working through these excellent 5 episodes that you gave us this new season?
Well, it was about like really 2.5 years ago that we started like writing it and started talking. And so even though that's why I said we've been away for a while, but we've been cooking and we've been talking. And so we were initially supposed to shoot it obviously back in March. And then we kind of, the brakes were put on for obvious reasons because everybody shut down for COVID. And then we didn't come back until October. I went to London in October and Naomi didn't really wrap up, I think, until top of January, right? Yeah. And because then we had like another 14-day delay, in London because of like COVID stuff. So it took a beat to get it done. It was definitely a long journey to here, and it was not the easiest shoot because it was very draining. We're doing a lot of these difficult scenes at oneers, and there is no, okay, you get to be off screen now, or you get to relax in this moment. We really are in it from the moment he yells action until the moment Aziz would yell cut. And that can be really exhausting. And we're also, we're not able to, kind of hang out with the crew and people and do that kind of stuff. So it can be really tough. We found ways on set to let loose and have fun. And obviously from Naomi and I, just to find that intimate space to connect, because we really wanted to feel like a married couple. We wanted to feel like that chemistry was there. And we also sent each other voice notes and stuff while we were away from each other, just trying to connect and talk and get to know each other, but also to just call each other on the phone, like while I was in London, just finding like a rhythm. I think that was so important, beyond the rehearsal and beyond what happens when we're on set, but us just really trying to get to know each other as people before we walked onto set as actors.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was going to ask about how you guys established that chemistry, because it is insane and off the charts and very believable. So much so, I think I told this to Naomi before, at times it feels like we really are eavesdropping on this couple as opposed to watching the scripted series. And that felt very real and authentic to me. Was there anything else that you guys did? Because I can imagine that being on set in October for the first time after having the break because of the pandemic felt relieving, at least, to be back to work. What was that like for you both? Naomi, let's start with you.
Oh man, getting back on set, I had done, it was funny because actually I had done a previous project just before that, but it was really, really small. Like a third, if not a quarter of the amount of people that were on this set. It was such a welcome departure. Like it became, I think it's this weird thing. I think, Lena, you're so right. The show, like some days actually we would get to leave early because of the way it's shot. Like oneers, you kind of do the scene, and if that's what you're scheduled for, you're scheduled for. However, the tiredness I felt when I would go home because of the emotional input that sometimes weighs heavier than physical, would mean like you'd go in for work and you'd be like, right, great, I get to leave my house. And then you come home like knackered because the things we were tackling were just like heavy. Like I've seen like so many of my friends who text me just like, damn, man, like I thought I was watching Master of None. Like, why am I crying in the first episode? Like, so it was heavy stuff. Stuff.
And also, I feel like because we did have that long break, and I hadn't been on a set from that time till we started, so I definitely was still carrying all that stuff and the lessons I was trying to learn, and having a heavy heart. And we had to sit in quarantine for 14 days, and then another 14 on top of that because there was like a bit of a COVID scare. So we were just sitting with ourselves a lot. And when I walked into the set, I wanted to bring all of it with me and not try to perform or make this feel like, this TV show. I really wanted it to be real. And I definitely think the audience is watching me work through things on screen as a human, as an artist, but I also think that that's my job. I'm not supposed to hide from you. So
yeah. It was really giving, I think, both of you in this piece. By now, of course, season 3 was just released on Netflix. So people are seeing it and, like me, probably watching it in the fetal position because it just feels so realistic. What are you both most excited for viewers to see this season? And what do you think will surprise them the most?
I mean, it's there's so much of, I think, my DNA and Aziz's DNA in it, and also Naomi's as well. Like, and also too, obviously, because I started the process very early, obviously before Naomi came in, but I've just been living with it for such a long time. This idea, just trying to find ways to keep the journey of these two people interesting and to keep surprising you. And Aziz and I have just sort of been, it's just he and I. There wasn't a writer's room or anything. It was just me and Aziz. So we really were just operating at such a different level. And again, being vulnerable and being honest. There's conversations between Denise and Deb, which I'm actually really excited for the audience to see, because Aziz sent me that scene and I felt like, is he talking to me through the script? Like, what's happening? And so then I responded in script form. And I think that's how sometimes people talk to each other. It's through the work. And I think so that to me is exciting, because yes, I know that Master of None took a bit of a detour this season, but the heart of it really is the friendship between Dev and Denise. And it's the first, almost, even though they go through romantic things, what they keep coming back to each other. And so I am excited for people to see that stuff, but I'm also excited for people to see the quiet moments this season, and also the carefree moments of us dancing and laughing, which is just, I think they're getting a chance to see me and Naomi play.
Totally, I second that. I think the variety, I think there is such a joy and privilege of being able to be two Black women who explore such a range of emotion in one show. Like that's big, and like it's exciting. And I think for people to see the two of us be vulnerable, to be angry, to be heartbroken, in grief, pumped up. I think it's just like a great exhibition of the humanity of these two characters.
Yeah. One thing I think about the series in its entirety is that it's always felt very revolutionary, because we had not seen, a character look like Aziz be a romantic lead before. And then you give us this season where we see two queer Black women going through struggles of infertility and infidelity and trying to figure life out. Talk to me about why that was important for you to really explore that dynamic, Lena. And did you have any trepidation with taking a curve and giving the audience this story?
No, it was actually really exciting. Aziz, funny enough, he actually just shared today on Instagram, which I'm really excited about, a lot of the influences. And they were, a lot of them were, some were foreign films and some were just like independent cinema that's not mainstream at all. It can be very slow and you got to be patient with it. So he was talking to me about this stuff that he was watching. He would send me stuff that he was watching and he would bug me. I wouldn't get to it fast enough. So did you see that? Did you watch Watermelon? Did you just, I was like, okay, I'm looking at it. And I would be looking at it and I would go, okay, this is very artful. You got to have a really patient audience. And he just was like, it's okay. We can figure it out. That's cool. And so I was just as excited by the idea of telling a love story that wasn't like a meet cute, there's a big argument. They have to hide a secret and then they come back together at the end. I think we wanted to, especially in the conversations that we were having with our friends in their mid to late 30s and what they were talking about, what they were experiencing. We just thought that what's actually happening in relationships right now is far more interesting than us trying to tell some cute, easy love story. And that's when he and I really just started getting vulnerable and honest on the page and just getting really real with these two characters. And I think that the audience, will be able to, I hope, and what I've found, they've been able to see themselves, been able to relate to certain things. And also too, it's super important for me, just as a Black queer woman in the world, or, as an artist and as a person who takes in art, is that we don't sanctify the othered. I shouldn't be given praise for how I was born. I'm a human just like everyone else. And I do think there's this idea that if a person is othered or if they've been marginalized, and they should too be a martyr, or they should too be this perfect ideal of what a human being is supposed to be. And in actuality, that's unfair to those who sort of who are already different in society's eyes, but then to have to be perfect in their community's eyes can be very daunting. And so what I like to do is to always, even though I'm maybe the person that people see in the cape, I always try to take it off and remind them that, we walk the same streets and we live similar experiences, even though we may have a different experience of the world. The truth is we all want the same things, which is based to love, acceptance. You know, we want people to embrace us, and we want to be content. And so, and the journey to that is always complicated. And I'm happy that we got a chance to show that, particularly with two queer Black women at the center.
Yeah, you really normalized that experience. And I think that was so important, and something that I think all of us probably take away by the time we get to the end of this new season. Naomi, let's get super nerdy and talk a bit more about the process of getting cast and what your reaction was like when you finally got the call that you will be joining the season as Alicia.
Yeah, man. I think like all I remember is I went for my first round somewhere in like North London. And it was like a assistant casting director, lovely lady, had a great time, did the audition in 2 different accents, did some sort of impro stuff, and then we had a nice chat and I left it. And for me with auditions, I'm kind of once it's done, just like you just, you know, put it into the ether. If it's meant to be yours, what is for you won't pass you, kind of stuff. The second round audition was a little bit more heavier and intense for me personally, because it was like, oh, Lena and Aziz are in London and they want to meet you. And like, I can't even explain like the surrealness of it. And like, it's of it like now, it's like, if, you know, I talk to Lena, I know you, like, we talk, but like, at that point, we hadn't talked one bit, and I just seen you.
That's true.
I was so nervous, and what was great was we went in, did like impro, I think, of one of the scenes, where I want a baby, and by the end of that first try, I was so comfortable. And there was just a really settled environment where I was like, oh, I feel like I can play. And then after that, I was just like, okay, I left that audition being like, I mean, I'm gonna leave it up into the like ether, but also like, God, can you just my way? Yeah,
no, I remember that. I remember feeling a sense of comfortability too, and I think that's why the audition process was very unique, because it really did require ultimately for there to be a read with me, and I'm sure that can be very unnerving, like to walk in with me and Aziz. But you know, but you're walking into a warm room. That's the thing. It's but yeah, that's what we were really looking for, was who could I be comfortable with, and what feels right. And obviously Aziz is on the other side of the camera, so he can be another pair of eyes to say after, because I know how I feel. I'm like, that felt great, and he's like, it was great. It looked and so that was such a great experience. And it's interesting because Jean Smart shared this with me the other day on a panel. She said a director once told her after an audition that you're there to solve the problem. They have a problem. They have a role to cast. And until they can cast that role, it's not real. They don't have a thing yet. And so in essence, when Naomi walked out of the room, we were like, oh, problem solved. Got it.
I love that.
The way to think about it.
Well, to that, Lena, I was going to ask, how did her audition stand out? And what was the point where you realized she was perfect for this role?
Yeah, well, the first time I saw her was on a computer screen and looking at the audition, and that came from Allison Jones, the great Allison Jones, who's cast our show since the beginning, who really helped to discover me, And so Aziz sent that, and I was like, yeah, she's great. She seems really cool. And then when we happened to be in London together, that was really awesome to see her in person and to like read with her. But it just boils down to chemistry. A thing I often, because a lot of actors are like, how do I book a thing? The truth is, you really, as cheesy as this is, if it's yours, it's already done.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, there's nothing for you to do. Like if I think it was meant to be myself and Naomi. Anybody that watches it, or when I watch it back, there is nothing she could have done to convince us. It's just, there are certain things that are in the ether. That's what I think is super smart, Naomi, that you let it go, because it has nothing to do with you. I always say when I get emails from people that say, oh, I'm friendly with this actor, she's coming in for this thing. I don't, what? It's like I'm not sitting there thinking while I'm reading, oh, this is my friend's friend and I really got to get this. No, I'm not even thinking. I'm feeling. I'm trying to like imagine what would this be like on set? Like, is this person got a cool vibe? Because also if you come in with nervous energy, you got to remember, this is a very vulnerable set. And I need someone that is going to go with the flow, that's going to vibe, that's going to speak up if they're not comfortable with something. I need it to be a really comfortable. And also too, Aziz has to feel comfortable because he's going to direct it. And we have a certain energy with Master of None. We are very go with the flow. We're very like no drama, all kind of stuff. So ultimately we want some of the laid back energy. And that's not something I can tell the person to have. It's sort of like,
chill out.
Oh yeah. And Naomi is very chill and confident in her work and her ability. And I think, and that was also really important. Like I wanted to make sure that it didn't feel lopsided. I wanted us to feel equally yoked. That was always important to me on the page from day one as in writing it, but then also when it came to casting it, I wanted to feel like I was, like playing tennis with a person that was a real contender.
Absolutely. Naomi, we have to talk about episode 4 because your character's journey through IVF, it's such a prominent story arc this season, and something, as I mentioned before, that's not really been shown before from the perspective of a single gay woman, and certainly not a single gay Black woman. Where did you draw inspiration from to portray this side of Alicia, especially in episode 4, which was so emotionally weighty?
I was lucky with this one, and it's always, I feel like most of this is always down to shooting schedules, to be honest with you. Because if they had asked me to do this right at the top of the filming, I don't think it probably would have garnered the same results. I think there's something about body memory and absorbing, like even though the things that we did were pretend, like it stays in your body and the memory of that stays. And so I feel like by the time episode 4 came around, I had lived in Alicia's shoes, and it felt like most of the inspiration came from the interactions I had had with Lena, Denise previously, and the process of making it. I didn't really kind of dig too deep into documentaries or books or anything, because I was like, I want it to be real. I just want to be in the moment. And so by that point, I felt very strong and connected with Alicia and what she had been through. And so I think luckily it was a filming schedule thing where I was like, it's in my body. I am tired at this point because filming is tiring and stressful most of the time and fun. But at that point I was like, okay, yeah, I understand this. I understand that feeling of anticipation and nerves and disappointment. And it just was able to.
Yeah. On the same note, of course, you have some really lighthearted comedic scenes with Denise. Can you talk about switching tones as an actor? Because there were so many scenes and moments where it went from one extreme to the other, and you obviously pulled that off magnificently.
I think that's where I like to live. I don't ever want anything to be all one thing. And I think Aziz is that way too, from the very beginning. I think that's why he and I are really connected, is that we know that life is made of light and darkness. And we all, I think, come to know that. And so I think mind you, it's very much it's very popular now to show particularly Black and brown people or queer people as joyful only. People want joyful stories and happiness and joy. And I love a happy, joyful, comedic. I'm a comedy writer first and foremost, but I also know that what really gets people is when you can show that light moment, but then also not shy away from real life as well. And I think that, we do that in this show because it's just honest. You'll be dancing and goofing around and folding laundry one minute, and then you don't recognize each other the next. You're sort of like, what is happening? Where are we? Or you're moving out, of this beautiful sanctuary that you built up and you fought so hard to get to. So I think that those are things that we just didn't want to turn away from. We wanted to, and also I think we both have the ability to be light and fun, but then we can also get right into something serious, and even if it's in the same scene, which I think is really fun, which was fun for myself and Aziz to write, but it was also, I think, really helpful to perform that as well, because some days when it was no fun, jokey scene, it was heavy, and it was just like, all right, this is what it is. But, we appreciated those days when I could go out there with chickens, or
Amen.
I could, we would just be laughing at the picnic table as something that we're really talking about as actors, or as people, rather, which I'm not going to get into it, Naomi. So, but yeah, like we had to find some joyful moments on set because we were dealing with some heavy stuff, but we also wanted to honor those heavy things.
You both wear additional hats this season, aside from being actresses, and they're important hats that you're wearing at that. Lena, you're an EP and a writer, and Naomi, you also are an EP. Can you both talk about balancing all of those roles and maybe what having a stake in this show did to your output as an actor?
Naomi, you got to go first.
I'll go first. Well, mine actually came afterwards. I came on just as an actor. I think by the time we finished, the group, I feel like it's like a proper ensemble, kind of almost like a theatre company-esque feel to it. It's so collaborative, and it happened very naturally. I didn't kind of go in being like, I want to be EP on this. Right. Just the natural flow of creativity we had, like 2 weeks later, Aziz called and was like, me and Alan have been talking and we just think you should be EP on it. And I'm so grateful because I do want to produce in the future and I'm working on stuff myself, and like to have Master of None as my first credit is like so yeah, that's how it happened for me, and the stake for me hasn't changed because I love making stuff, and without the EP I would have still been like hands in, do you know what I mean? But
yeah, I think it made sense. I think for me coming in, that was there, and which I think was a just sort of my evolution with the show. And so it made sense with how involved I was, obviously in front of and behind the scenes and all of the elements of it. Obviously in terms of casting, I was like heavily involved for obvious reasons. So that I knew I had a stake in it. And I think that just was such a wonderful feeling to be a part of this family that I came in and sort of played a position, and then to sort of be promoted in a way and to say, okay, now you're going to really take the wheel. And because of how we were working, like, yes, we had the scripts, and yes, we brought Naomi into this family. But once we were all there, we really wanted to hear from her, because initially it was going to be like an American accent. And then we said, well, there are British people in New York, that's fine. And so it also makes it more layered. And so she got to use her actual accent. And because of that, we did say, hey, if something is written like to American, or if you would add something, she would really do that for us with the script. So that way, it felt authentic to her voice. And so it just made sense, for us to be the center of it and for us to be so involved. And obviously I was hyper involved in the beginning of the process. It still just, it felt like the right thing to do to give us, those titles at the end of it.
What do you ladies both hope that audiences take away after they watch season 3 of Master of None? Are there any messages or lessons that you hope stays with the audience?
Naomi, you want to go first? I was thinking about this one.
Okay, I was really thinking about it too. What do I want them to take away? I think there's just a level of, I think it's so beautiful when you get to observe someone else's story. And I think it really puts something out there in the world. I don't necessarily think there's like a given message, but I know that when I watch pieces of work that's been lovingly made and I get to have a peek into someone else's experience, I feel like I leave like a better person. So yeah, man, if that's what happens, then that would be good enough for me.
I love that.
And I think to me, whenever it comes to art, people take away what they bring. And so if people have experienced some of these things, if they haven't lived through them yet, if they don't know any queer Black women or don't know any, women that have gone through this or people that have gone through it, I hope that they really take from it what they're supposed to get, because I don't think what our part is done. We brought to this all of ourselves, and so we give of ourselves. That's what you're really doing. You're giving a piece of yourself to the work, and therefore you're giving a piece of yourself to the audience. And so I hope the audience brings a piece of themselves to it, and we meet somewhere in the middle. I think that's always what I love.
I think you both are going to get what you want, because that is absolutely what audiences are taking away from from this really excellent season. Thank you guys for gifting us that. And thank you guys so much for doing this today.
Oh, thank you for having us, Kelley.